Alright, before I start this tier list, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel so far. We recently hit 500 subscribers, which is just crazy for me to think about, but you guys have been asking for a tier list for a while, so I'm going to start out with the zombie side because I want to split this up because I don't want the video to be too long. And then after I get this one out, I'll start working on the plants and try to get that one out too. So I hope you enjoy. One more thing to add is that I'm gonna try to be as objective as possible in these rankings. So I'm not gonna rank them based on how much I enjoy the character, but rather how good I think they are. So now with that out of the way, onto the tier list. Alright, I'm gonna try to keep these explanations short and simple to save some time. So as you can see right here in F tier, AC Parry. He's easily the worst zombie in my opinion, and he's the only one I have there. He feels so inaccurate and inconsistent. His damage is terrible, so I don't really know if that's an unpopular opinion or what, but he's the worst zombie in my opinion. After that, we have the D tier. There's not a lot in here, but these weren't really hard decisions either. I was actually debating putting Moto Star in F, but I thought he was better than AC Parry, so I left him there. Captain Squawk. Tons of people think he's the worst in the game. I personally think he's actually really fun, but I can't put him any higher than this. Plumber and Sanitation Expert are both just outclassed by almost all the other engineers. They don't do anything special. They're kind of boring too. And then Captain Flameface, once again, he just gets outclassed. He doesn't do enough damage or have enough ammo to warrant being any higher than this, in my opinion. Now, after that, we have the C tier, or below average. So, this might be kind of controversial, but I have Breakfast and Electro Brains right here. I know everyone thinks that Cosmic is the worst. Obviously, I don't think that. I think these guys are actually the worst superheroes. They just don't do enough damage, in my opinion. To get decent damage with Electro Brains, you have to hit all the punches, and Breakfast Brains just takes way too long to kill. So, that's why I think they belong in C tier. Captain Sharkbite also feels outclassed by all the other pirates besides the two in D tier. He just doesn't do enough damage, and the splash and the shotgun are both underwhelming. Landscaper's okay, but once again, I really can't put him any higher. He's kind of fun, but he's really not that practical, and he's really inaccurate too. I have Shrimp as the worst imp, all the way in C tier. Yeah, I don't really think there's anywhere else for him to go because I don't think he's a good or an average character, so he's not bad, but I don't have a lot to say about him except he just gets outclassed. Dr. Toxic has not enough ammo, doesn't do enough damage. Archaeologist doesn't do enough damage, that's the only reason why he's this low. Golf Star, Tennis, and Wrestling Star, I think are all outclassed. And there's like 3 different characters that do the exact same thing as them, but better. Hovergoat, I was thinking about putting him in B tier, but I just don't think he's very good. These are my 2 worst soldiers. Now, I know lots of people think Supremo is the worst, but I personally think it's these 2 down here. Honestly, Park Ranger feels like the soldier version of Toxic Citron to me. I think he's just really inconsistent, and Centurion's fun and all, but at the end of the day, everyone knows he's one of the worst. He just gets outclassed by almost all the other soldiers. Alright. Now we have B tier. So as you can see, at the start of B tier, I have Cosmic Brains. Now, I personally would rate him in very good, but that's just because I'm really good at playing him compared to most people. And if I'm looking at it objectively, I believe that he belongs in good or B tier, so that's why he's not any higher, in case you're wondering. Marine biologist, I think, is overrated. His reload is just what holds him back. So I don't think he belongs in A, and I don't think he's one of the best scientists either. Scuba soldier, I also think, is overrated. He just feels more like a more generous version of Tank Commander. Like, you can make more mistakes while playing him, but he's also... I just don't like the way he plays. I much prefer Tank Commander. Supremo, though, I think is underrated. That's why I have him in B tier instead of C. I really think he's actually a good character. His damage output is really nice, and I have a lot of fun with him. So, if you were drawn away by people saying he's the worst, I would suggest giving him a try. He's really fun. Now I have Pylon and Little Drake in the B tier. Yeah, there's nothing really wrong about these guys. They're just not as good as the other imps. They're good characters, but Little Drake shoots too slow. I don't think his primary is very good. And Pylon Imp is just a worse version of Scallywag. Alright. Now I have 3 engineers in B tier. I have Painter, who I almost considered putting in A tier with 2 other engineers, but in the end, I put him back down in B just because he shoots kind of slow, and I really couldn't put him any higher. Electrician is one of the better engineers, I would say. Just the electric damage is really useful against giant groups of plants. Same with Welder. Splash damage and fire, you can't really go wrong with that. It's pretty basic. And then there's regular engineer. He's kind of underrated because he does a ton of damage. And I actually think he's better than either of these two, but worse than Painter. Not quite A tier, but he's really close. Now, along with marine biologist, putting zoologist and chemist in average might make some people mad, but over time, close range characters have gotten a lot worse, and like you just get destroyed nowadays by almost every matchup before you can get close. But like once you do, you're unbeatable. So I couldn't put him any lower than this, but they can only do close range, and they're not even the best at it. Now I have these 4 all-stars here. They're all just pretty good, in my opinion. Nothing really wrong with them. I like Rugby Star a lot. I think he's kind of underrated. Cricket Star's overrated, so that's why he's in B tier. Baseball and Reg All-Star, both pretty solid. Not much to say about these guys. Captain Partyman is basically just a slightly weaker version of Deadbeard, but he also gets a party mode. So it can be really useful, but I think his lack of ammo and damage just kind of holds him back. If he was like on Party Corn level, he could honestly be S tier, but no, not enough ammo, not enough damage. And then my last B tier is Paleontologist, who could honestly be A tier, but I just don't think he does anything as well as Astronaut. He gets outclassed by Astronaut, and then close range he's also kind of average. But a really good scientist overall. Fire damage helps him out. Alright, now up at A tier, I have a ton of soldiers right at the start here. First of all, Camo Ranger, one of the best snipers in the game. Really accurate, really consistent, nothing to complain about there, but he's not S tier. Tank Commander, I do believe is better than Scuba, Just a really quick reload. He feels like Iron Citron. Once you learn how to play him, you're going to destroy everybody. Same with Sky Trooper. He's like a slightly worse version of Reg Soldier, but he's really fun. I love Sky Trooper. Super Commando, also really good once you learn how to play him. He's not as good in Garden Warfare as he was in Garden Warfare 1, but he could honestly be S tier. I just didn't really feel like putting him up there. Now I have these two engineers. Mechanic, because he's the best engineer. His abilities are really good damage. He's just not as accurate as soldiers, and that's the only thing holding him back. Rhodey Z could, in the right hands, Rhodey Z is a broken character. But on average, I do think he's very good. Even if you don't have an insane trigger finger to spam the plants with, still a really good character. I actually have scientists up here ahead of chemists, zoologists, marine biologists, just because I've explained this before. I think he outclasses all of them purely on his damage alone. He's really underrated. I don't have a lot to say about him. He's just really good. Astronaut, the best range scientist, really solid. Physicist, also underrated, does a ton of damage. Chain lightning's helpful. So I also think he's on the same tier and above chemist and zoologist and those other ones. Super brains, party brains, really good. They're easy to play, easy to master. Their three punch combo is a lot easier to use than cosmic brains. Although I don't think they're as fun, they're objectively better. I have these three imps here. They just hit a lot of damage and they're consistent. Scallywag Imp is the best close range imp. He just hits a ton of damage. And then Party and Reg Imp, they're essentially the same character. And they're both really good. Now these two are my top all-stars. Goalie because he can freeze. That's all there is to it. Freezing's OP. And Hockey Star because he shoots really quickly and with the damage and overheat upgrade, I actually think he's the best all-star in the game. You can just mow down people. So that's the end of my A tier. And then up here, we have the S tier. Foot Soldier, just because he's probably the most reliable character in the whole game. Ton of damage, really accurate, good reload, lots of ammo. You can't go wrong with him. Arctic Trooper just behind him because he can freeze, and he just does a little less damage than Foot Soldier, but you can freeze. I don't really have to explain why he's good. Everyone knows why at this point. Then there's Z7, who I almost put in the tier that you're about to see next, but he is kind of skill-based in a way. So that kind of holds him back if you're not good, but insane character. Captain Deadbeard, the best sniper in the game. His damage is crazy for how quickly he shoots, how much ammo he has. His shotgun's really good. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Deadbeard. Computer Scientist is the best scientist. Probably one of the best close-range characters in the game just because of his really fast reload. Really good damage, legendary mode. Definitely the best scientist, one of the best close-range characters. And then, at the top, Broken. Now these guys, I don't have to explain why they're here. If there's someone in your lobby using this, they could ruin your game so easily. They get the most kills every round. They're just unfair characters. Toxic Brain's way too easy to get legendary mode. That kills plants in 3 punches. Captain Cannon, manual detonation. Ridiculous character. So, that's my tier list. If you don't agree with it, feel free to tell me why. I know I have a lot of different opinions than the average player, so don't hate on me too much, but at the end of the day, it's my opinion, so feel free to share yours down below. Thanks for watching, and thanks for 500 subs.